No long preamble this time because there's just not much left to say. It's the Prismatic Draft League semifinals, and so there are 4 teams still in it as we wind down this excellent season. Our Alaskan Absols, of course, are not one of those 4 teams as we were knocked out by the varsity Farmboys last week. But we'll just watch these 2 sets and then we'll be back for the final next week. So we start with Dallas Dragapults versus Big Time Sand Rush. On the Dragapults side, you see the weather trio of Pelipper, Basque Legion, and Overquill. Although, if this is Swift Swim Overquill, I think it'll be a first. They've preferred Intimidate bulky stuff, but we'll see. We see Rillaboom and Hawlucha, teammates that have shown up together very often throughout the season. No Riolu this time, and nothing weirder like the Donphan or the Altaria or Quilava. Instead, we have the Raichu in the last slot. Maybe looking to redirect a Double Shock from Palmet, protect his teammates from that, or of course, could be bringing Fake Out support, speed control. Who's to say, right? On the other side, Big Time Sand Rush bringing Ice Q without the Flamigo this time. I still would imagine that Ice Q is running Belly Drum because I don't know what else you do with that Pokemon, but it will not be passing boost to Flamigo. We do have the duo of Espathra and Superior, but again, it's interesting because the Espathra, the main role that we've seen it play, I think, is to punch holes for special attackers, but Superior is the only other one on this team. So they may have some combos and synergies that are not obvious to me immediately at preview. We do have Palmet and Tauros here, both able to help counter the rain mode, I would think. Palmet also could be helpful against the Hawlucha. And then Tinkaton is... I feel like we haven't seen them bring the Tinkaton in a while. I could see Pokemon like Tinkaton and Ice Cube help to slow down the Rillaboom. But yeah, let's just see what happens as we get going in Game 1 here. We see Pelipper and Rillaboom lead against Tinkaton and Espathra. Okay. So Weather and Terrain both up immediately. Terra Ghost Pelipper, avoiding the Fake Out from the Tinkaton and setting Tailwind. And High Horsepower does a lot to Tinkaton right off the bat. But we see the Key Berry. Wait, what is going on here? So, Pelipper avoids the Fake Out. We see Rillaboom land the High Horsepower, does a lot of damage. Tinkaton that eats a Key Berry, which I think, judging by the Moringa berries we've seen in past weeks, will raise its defense if it's hit by a physical attack. I don't know that that's going to protect it much against the offense from these 2 Pokemon. But then the Mirror Herb Pelipper copying the defense boost. You have to wonder what that was for. I mean, there are a lot of stat boosting options on Big Time Sand Rush side, right? Like, the Superior can boost itself with a Leaf Storm or a Terra Blast. What else do they have on the special side? I'm drawing a blank right now, but we know that... then, of course, there's the Ice Cube Belly Drum, but I feel like that's not useful for Pelipper to copy, unless there's something crazy on this set that I don't know about. I guess Espathra can set up with Speed Boost and Calm Mind as well. So there are a few things they could have had in mind with the Mirror Herb. I don't know that they saw a Key Berry coming, but in any case, I don't think it's actually going to help Tinkaton all that much right now, but let's see. The Grassy Terrain recovery is good, of course. Espathra gets a Speed Boost. Tinkaton still takes that Hurricane. And we see the Sunny Day Espathra changing the weather, but then taking a lot of damage from Rillaboom's U-turn. Pelipper can, of course, switch out and back in. It will give up its defense boost if it does that, but easy come, easy go, maybe. And both Espathra and Tinkaton have taken a lot of damage. Well, this turn is not over yet. There's still Tinkaton's move to see, but it's not really clear to me how much they've accomplished so far. We do see the Intimidate Overquill. The Gigaton Hammer still does about a third to Pelipper. With Grassy Terrain recovery, Pelipper's not too bothered about that, but that is, of course, -1 attack Tinkaton into +1 defense Pelipper with neutral typing. People love to complain about Tinkaton being nerfed by its stats, but Gigaton Hammer actually can still hit pretty hard, so under different circumstances we might see it put in more work later in this game or in a different one. Anyway, we see the Tauros come in, intimidate the Overquill, Espathra protecting again, and avoids a Throat Chop. Fire Weather Ball does a fair bit to the Tauros, actually. But again, the Grassy Terrain is kind of helping both sides out here. Espathra has gotten some recovery, although it's still very low. But it sets Reflect, so it looks like this Espathra might be playing more of a support role on this team. As we've seen Protect, Reflect, Sunny Day. I don't know if it would have Light Screen. in this matchup because the Dragapults generally run a lot of physical attackers. I could still see Espathra's last move being Lumina Crash or even Psychic or something, but I don't know. But okay, Tauros does a lot of damage into Overquill, so after the Citrus Berry it's at half. It does still feel like the Dragapults are getting more damage out more quickly, which is something that Big Time Sand Rush might have to figure out in Game 2, as we see the Tauros knocked out there. The Tinkaton's still holding on, taking a throat chop, but the grassy terrain is gone. So no more recovery for the Pokemon on that side. We see the Serperior come in, paralyzes Overquill. We also see the Raichu. Okay, Terra Fire Serperior. Espathra's knocked out, but Serperior's starting to set up, doing a lot of damage to Raichu with that Leaf Storm, taking that Gunk Shot pretty well after the Terra and with Reflect, so maybe Robbie may be playing toward a Serperior game plan all this time so far, but it's going to have to put in a lot of work for that to pay off, as the Tinkaton is still at very low HP, and the other two teammates are gone. Pelipper gets the Rain back up, and of course the Espathra is not available to turn that off anymore, but Serperior can knock it out with... Oh! Serperior can knock it out with a Leaf Storm, but then we see that the Overquill is running Haze. So all that setup the Serperior did is gone, as Rillaboom comes in now. Rillaboom's not going to care about taking a Leaf Storm. Overquill takes the Leaf Storm at neutral. It does get knocked out by Gigaton Hammer, but Rillaboom KOs Serperior back with high horsepower and should be able to finish off Tinkaton pretty easily here, especially with the Raichu offering Fake Out support. Oh, interesting. Focus Sash Tinkaton. Oh, of course, we saw earlier that it had the Key Berry, right? So once it's... I don't think I knew that Tinkaton gets Pickpocket. What do I feel like... What do I usually run on it? I can't remember, but I haven't used Tinkaton since, like, Regulation C, but yeah, we saw its item consumed earlier, and now we see the Pickpocket. It steals the Focus Sash, but yeah, the Dragapults just got out a lot of damage very early in the game, and Sandrush tried to get going with the Serperior later, but its teammates all just kind of were dropping like flies at that point. And Serperior is still set up pretty nicely, but the Haze Overquill was able to shut that down. And the Dallas Dragapults pull out the win in Game 1. I'm not sure what we're going to see from Big Time Sand Rush in Game 2, but I think they need to find a way to not lose these damage trades. You know, not take so much damage so quickly while not dealing it back. But we'll see in Game 2 here. We got the Overquill and Pelipper against Tauros and Ice-Q. We see the Ice-Q this game. Team's trade intimidates, and Tauros just knocks the Pelipper out with a Wild Charge. So Sandrush now, if they have a way to change the weather, don't have to worry about Pelipper for the rest of the game. Quillfish goes right for the Haze, turns off its own attack drop, I guess. We see the Icy Wind from the Ice-Q. Okay. This Ice-Q might not be playing toward a Belly Drum game plan. Tauros with the Dragon Terra. I think we've seen that Dragon Terra can be useful against this team before, as of course a lot of their strongest Pokemon are Pelipper, Rillaboom, Basculegion, Water and Grass types, then the Raichu is an Electric type. But Tauros just going right for a Wave Crash. Of course, Overquill turned off the Intimidate drops on both sides, and it just drops. The Tauros is just going nuts so far this game. It is taking a lot of recoil, but 2 KOs already. Pretty good, I think. Rillaboom breaks Ice-Q's Ice Face. And that actually makes that's a pretty good sense of Ice-Q's role in this matchup as well. I mentioned earlier that the Dragapults have a lot of physical attackers and tend to overwhelm opponents with them, as they did in Game 1. So Ice-Q having Ice Face to protect it from a physical hit actually, by itself, seems like a pretty good reason to have it in this matchup. We also see it using Ice Spinner to turn off the grassy terrain, although Rillaboom will be coming back in. So the terrain is back. But Tauros with the Aqua Jet knocks out Raichu. That's 3 KOs for Tauros in this game. Rillaboom attacks Ice-Q. We see the Citrus Berry on Ice-Q. Makes me wonder whether it does still have Belly Drum, but we're not going to find out this game at least, as Ice-Q and its no Ice Face is faster than it was before, and it's able to finish off Rillaboom. So what did I say? Game 1, the Dragapults were doing more damage more quickly, and Sandrush just got overwhelmed. Game 2, the Tauros just popped off, right? Sandrush just led Tauros and started clicking attacks, and Pokemon went down. Obviously, if Ninja Meerkat didn't see the Wild Charge coming, he will in Game 3. And we've also seen what that Wave Crash can do to something like Overquill in Rain. But, yeah, very strong game by Big Time Sandrush. Still have to win another one to advance to the final. So this is it, Game 3. We see Pelipper and Raichu this time leading against Tauros and Palmet. So the Tauros can just start throwing off attacks again if it wants. It's not even intimidated this time. Overquill could switch in if it wants. And yeah, the Palmet... Well, the Palmet would be threatening a double shock if Raichu weren't on the field, but we'll see what it does do. Could have Fake Out. I think it gets Fake Out. I think we've seen it run that before. Instead, it switches out to Superior. We see Terra Ghost Raichu and the immediate Terra Dragon Tauros, which does get faked out. Pelipper sets up the Tailwind, so that might make Tauros' job harder. And in fact, Tauros switches out to Palmet here, which takes a lot of damage. And Superior gets dropped by a Hurricane. And the Dragapults seem to have found the right adjustment to get through this Tauros matchup, as it takes a lot from that Alluring Voice. Knocks Raichu down to its Sash, but Tauros is knocked out by the recoil. And we see the Ice Cube come in. Palmet drops. The Raichu now sweeping with the Fairy-type attack. That's not really something I saw coming. Ice Cube will finish Raichu off, but it took a lot from Hurricane, of course, through its Ice Face ability, because that is a special attack. And I don't know where the Sandrush Pokemon went. Somehow Ice Cube is the only one left. And I think it's going to be a tall order for it to pull this one back. It does land a big Ice Spinner to Rillaboom, but it doesn't KO. Ice Face is broken. Pelipper gets the Rain back up for Basculegion, and Basculegion will finish the job with a Wave Crash. So, there is one other thing that I kind of slept on until Game 3, which is that when the Dragapults got Tailwind up, they won, and when they didn't get Tailwind up, they lost. Game 1, Tinkaton tried to fake out Pelipper, but the Ghost Terra prevented it, and the Tailwind went up. Game 2, Tauros landed the Wild Charge before Pelipper could set Tailwind. But in Game 3, that wasn't going to work a second time, as excuse me, Ninja Meerkat knew to watch out for the Tauros, knew that it had Dragon as its Terra type, and so the Raichu clicking Fake Out into that slot kind of just made all the difference there. And Tauros wasn't able to outspeed and one-shot everything when there was Tailwind up on the other side, so everything was outspeeding it. So it really feels like Pelipper's Tailwind made the difference in all 3 games, and while Robbie found a way to stop it in Game 2, the Dallas Dragapults got right back on track in Game 3 and are our first finalist team. And the only thing left is to figure out their opponent, which we'll do by watching this set right here between the Flatland Flat Sands and the Varsity Farmboys. The Flat Sands bringing Whimsicott with its favorite teammates Lucario and Mudsdale, potentially able to target a side beat up into either one of those to boost a stat. And then we have the Jolteon, probably covering for the water spam stuff that I struggled with last week, and able to just throw off fast attacks into things. And then we have Clefable and Honchkrow. You never necessarily know what those Pokemon are going to do. They're both very flexible Pokemon that can help round out a lot of matchups. I could see Honchkrow being valuable into the Ursaluna, certainly. And I could see the Ursaluna being a problem, actually, unless they have some tech specifically to deal with it. It could be some kind of Terra type on Jolteon. It could be boosting Mudsdale. The Honchkrow could play a role in that, too. And the Clefable. On the Farmboys side, we actually don't see any weather this week, which is unusual for them. Instead, we see a ton of bulk, with Garganacl, Bayleaf, and Blissey all coming to this one. So this is going to be a hard team to break. And that could also mean that the Empoleon and the Vileplume are running sets that are designed to make their teammates harder to knock out. Empoleon could be running Yawn or something. Vileplume could be spreading status. It could be... I don't know what else Vileplume does. I think it gets Pollen Puff. And then, of course, there's the Ursaluna. So if all else fails, they have one of the strongest offensive Pokemon in the game available, even if the bulky modes don't work out. This one... I'm going to tell you, I haven't watched the replay, I never do before I'm recording, but I have read messages in the Discord about this set, and I think it's going to be a long one, and that makes sense when I see what the Farmboys have brought here. I think this is going to be a slog for both players. Let's get into it right now. So we see Whimsicott and Lucario leading against Empoleon and Bayleaf. Pancake Mix may be looking to set up the Justified and just break through quickly, if possible. And it makes sense. Lucario, at face value, is a huge threat into Empoleon, Garganacl, Blissey, and Ursaluna. So if anything is going to break this bulky game plan, it probably is a Lucario setup. We see Terra Electric Empoleon right away. And Jumpluff just goes for the Tailwind. Lucario throws a Drain Punch into Empoleon, and Farmboys set up the Swamp, doing... So Bayleaf was faster than Empoleon, so the Water-type Pledge combo does about half to Lucario. And yeah, with the Swamp, that Tailwind doesn't matter now. The speed control favors the Farmboys side. So I didn't even think about the Pledge combo there, even though they led with those two starters, but having that available means they can get their bulky Pokemon set up that much more quickly. Lucario is going to protect, try to get through this, and Bayleaf just clicks Heal Pulse into the Empoleon. Empoleon is right back at full HP, a little bit less after taking that Moonblast. Unfortunately for Pancake Mix, the Moonblast gets the special attack drop, so Empoleon gets a competitive boost, and it has Bayleaf keeping it healthy, and it has speed control. Lucario is forced out here. It's not going to be able to break through right now. It'll just be knocked out if it tries. So they go Mudsdale, but I wouldn't feel confident switching a Mudsdale in on all this. Mudsdale taking a Leech Seed as Whimsicott is knocked out by Flash Cannon from Empoleon. And yeah, it definitely feels like the Flat Sands are on the back foot here. We see the Clefable go immediately for Terra Ghost. Bayleaf clicking Fake Tears into it as the Empoleon switches out. I don't necessarily know what they had in mind there, but maybe they think that with only Lucario still in the back and Lucario being hard to switch in, the Clefable is going to sit on the field for a while and Empoleon can come back in and threaten it with massive special attack damage. It is also possible that they just kind of got their plans scrambled, and decided later to switch Ursaluna in, but I think the Bayleaf might be setting up for a different attack in the longer term here, or it could just start clicking Grass Pledge. In any case, this Bayleaf, we see it set now, and it's going to be hard to deal with for sure. Mudsdale does some damage to Ursaluna, but Ursaluna has its burn now. Clefable clicking Follow Me, redirecting the Heal Pulse. That's actually a good tech, but yeah, that Ursaluna is going to knock it out fairly quickly. The good thing is with the Ghost Terra here, Ursaluna can't click Facade into Clefable. So Clefable is able to take a high horsepower, a Headlong Rush. It won't take another one, but it could do it once. And I don't know that it would have taken Facade, but with the immunity that doesn't matter. We also see that the Clefable is running Cute Charm. So Ursaluna is now infatuated. If Clefable keeps clicking Follow Me, there is a chance that Ursaluna won't be able to knock it out because it won't be able to move. I don't actually remember what infatuation odds are. I think it used to be a 50-50. I wouldn't bet that it still is because they've been changing that kind of thing in recent generations, but they have made it that much harder for Clefable to be knocked out here. And Bayleaf not being able to click Heal Pulse safely because it can be redirected is actually pretty funny, although Bayleaf is free to click Leech Seed or, again, Grass Pledge into the special defense dropped Clefable if it wants. See Mudsdale go for Rock Slide, doesn't do much to either Pokemon though. Don't know what they were trying to do with that. Garganacl comes in, and Clefable does get Leech Seeded. Mudsdale with no setup doesn't do a whole lot to Garganacl with Body Press. And takes a fair bit from that Grass Pledge. Clefable now showing the Life Dew, though. Showing that the Flat Sands can play a bulky game as well, but we see the Garganacl setting up with Curse. And if it has Recover, if it has Recover, it could take these hits from Mudsdale and doesn't really have to worry. Maybe it could have lost to a crit there, but yeah, we do see the Recover. As Mudsdale's forced out for Lucario. Lucario having kind of one last chance to break through here, but if it is a justified Lucario, there's no way to set it up now. And so Drain Punch does not that much to Bayleaf. Mudsdale dodging a Leech Seed. Bayleaf knocked below half by the double up, but it's still there. It can still land a Leech Seed into something next turn. Lucario doesn't KO it with that Drain Punch. Also, Lucario is Salt Cured. And Mudsdale takes the Leech Seed. Both these Pokemon are being worn down, and I don't think they're going to be able to break Ursaluna and Garganacl before it's too late. Especially the Garganacl, there's just not enough damage into that. It can even just click Recover for the rest of the game. And as long as there's a teammate in the other slot, which will be for a while because they still have the Empoleon in the back. They have passive damage into both of these Pokemon, so Garganacl doesn't even need to attack. I guess Lucario's Drain Punch is the one wrinkle in that, but it takes so much damage from the Salt Cure. And as soon as Mudsdale goes down, Garganacl can knock Lucario out pretty safely, I would think. Oh, and then now they get Salt Cure into the Mudsdale as well, so I think this is over. As, yeah, both Pokemon drop to the Salt Cure damage. So, I liked the way Pancake Mix approached Game 1 there. I thought it made a lot of sense to lead Whimsicott Lucario. I feel like I might have clicked the side beat up immediately, just to try to get the offense out as quickly as I could, but it didn't really matter in the face of the Pledge combo anyway. Like, Lucario still can't stay in after that turn when it's in a swamp. I probably would have been stuck just throwing the boosts away. The Varsity Farm Boys, as we've seen them do before, locking this game down. I can tell you from last week, this is a hard team to play against, to try to create openings against. They locked this game down very effectively, forcing Lucario out, KOing the Whimsicott, and then with no setup available on the other side, the Clefable could disrupt them, sure, some, but once the Leech Seed landed, that was pretty much it. The Bayleaf, once again, putting in a ton of work, as we've seen it do before this season, despite most people, including me, doubting it. And we'll go to Game 2, see if the Flat Sands can find a way to break through. As we see Honchkrow and Clefable leading this time against Vileplume and Garganacl. Garganacl? Well, I feel like I'm in too deep now. Honchkrow going for the Power Herb Sky Attack combo that I believe we've seen them use before. It also crits the Vileplume, and this could be... Oh, it's Moxie Honchkrow. Okay, never mind. It's not super luck, but yeah, it crits the Vileplume, knocks it out in one hit, and Honchkrow gets the +1 attack. That's another way for this team to get boosting, right? As we see, the other side has 2 grass types and a Blissey. If Honchkrow can pull off the big hits like that and get going with Moxie, yeah, that's another way to get some offense going and break through. It is still vulnerable to Salt Cure, but Power Herb Sky Attack Honchkrow coming in clutch once again. Garganacl going immediately for the Curse, and now we see Blissey, which isn't quite KO'd by that Acrobatics, and it has a Key Berry. We've seen a Key Berry in both sets now, which I knew was coming because someone pointed it out on the Discord that they'd never even heard of a Key Berry before, and and then it showed up in both sets. No Mirror Herb this time, unfortunately. But yeah, Farmboys really try to lock this one down with Garganacl next to Blissey, but this Honchkrow doing a good job so far of trying to break through. Oh, and it's Moringa Berry on the Garganacl too, so both of these Pokemon are engineered to try to just wall everything with the berry that boosts their weaker defensive stat. We see the Key Berry and the Moringa Berry in the same turn. The Honchkrow is doing a lot of damage to Blissey. I thought that might KO. It didn't, but Blissey is still not safe here. On the other hand, nobody's really safe when Salt Cure starts spreading. And look at how much that did to Honchkrow. Honchkrow has one more turn in it. And it uses it to attack Blissey again. I don't know what's going on with these damage rolls, but it feels like Acrobatics has done less every time. Okay, well the Key Berry is the reason that the damage dropped after the first hit, but this still feels like kind of an unlucky roll. I don't know the calc, but it sure is less than earlier. In any case, Blissey's still able to get fairly healthy, actually. Garganacl recovering back to full. Farmboy's playing this patiently. The Honchkrow does not get KO'd, as the Clefable is able to keep it going with Life Dew. So it gets yet another chance. We see Terra Flying Acrobatics actually will KO Blissey this time, and get Honchkrow to +2 attack. Clefable's still able to click Life Dew to keep its teammate healthy, but another round of the Salt Cure attack knocks the Honchkrow out. Now we see Whimsicott and Clefable in together, and there are only 2 Pokemon left on the Farmboys side, but Flat Sands were able to build up a lot of offensive pressure with Honchkrow that seems to be gone now. It may be that they're trying to set up with Tailwind. Maybe click Follow Me, set Tailwind, set up for something in the back to try to break through, but we'll have to see. If you actually see the Lucario switch right in, and they do go straight for the side beat up this time. So, if anything can break through the Garganacl, it might be this. And the Bayleaf, Leech Seed is frustrating to deal with, so is Heal Pulse into his teammate, but it isn't much of an offensive threat. We actually see Bayleaf get locked into Leech Seed there with the Encore. Makes sense. There's nothing more that Leech Seed can do really in this game. At least if they remove Bayleaf before they have to bring another Pokemon in. Lucario taking damage quickly from Leech Seed and Salt Cure, but it gets another side beat up, so it should be able to do... It'll get to +6 here. And Drain Punch still only does 39%. Wow. It is, of course, Terra Fire Garganacl, and it's been setting up with Curse for a while, so it's not even weak to the Drain Punch anymore. They can knock out Bayleaf here, but... Oh, that's huge. Yeah. They knock out Bayleaf. Lucario is at least able to get some recovery with Drain Punch. There's still another Pokemon in the back, which is this Clefable, but now they've locked the Garganacl into Protect. So Encore Whimsicott, yeah, as Farmboys forfeit. Encore Whimsicott coming in later in the game, when that bulky mode really got going, was able to punish the passive play, right? Farmboys have been clicking a lot of Protect, a lot of stuff like Curse, and a lot of Recover and Soft Boiled this set. So a well-positioned Encore Whimsicott might be the key to breaking through, as it was what was able to stop the Garganacl in this game. And Honchkrow put in work in the early game. I could see them conceivably going back to Whimsicott and Lucario in Game 3 if they don't see the Swamp combo again, but I don't know. Both players have a lot of options, and the only thing to do, I think, is watch Game 3 and see how it turns out. So we see Whimsicott and Lucario against Ursaluna and Garganacl. Okay, not the worst position, I would think, for Justified Lucario, as we do again see the side beat up immediately. Ursaluna has gone Terra Ground. We'll see what comes of that. I think I do know because I've been reading the Discord. Yeah, it takes the Drain Punch at 9% and just knocks Lucario out with a Headlong Rush. Very strong start for the Farmboys. Losing your strongest Pokemon, well, losing that much HP on your strongest Pokemon this early might not feel great for some players, but I think Ursaluna is pretty well pigeonholed into a complimentary role this week. And by taking out the Lucario, you make it so much harder for the Flat Sands to break your bulky Pokemon that you probably have in the back, as well as the one on the field next to Garganacl. So I think Ursaluna played its role perfectly there, removing the greatest offensive threat, and we'll see if Flat Sands can break through after this. Whimsicott and Clefable. They can lock Garganacl to Protect, but then Whimsicott just drops to a Facade. And so Ursaluna trades itself for 2 Pokemon. And it's hard to see Mudsdale and Clefable breaking through this one. We see the Empoleon and Blissey in the back. So again, the Farmboys set up to wall basically anything. Clefable already forced to just click Life Dew, and that doesn't even do all that much to keep it healthy, as it's taking a lot from these Flash Cannons. The Terra Ghost will help it survive, but... Blissey going for Calm Mind, so the Blissey showing it's able to set up too. We've got Curse, Maranga Berry, Garganacl, and Calm Mind, Key Berry, Blissey on the field together here. Nightmare duo. For sure. Moonblast into Garganacl only does about a quarter and gives it its berry. It takes a lot from that high horsepower, and it didn't recover this turn, so actually, in theory, you could break it here. But it does recover this time, and... Is it speed tying with Mudsdale? It looks like it is. Oh, they have the same base speed. I didn't know that. Yeah, so if Mudsdale had won the speed tie there, it could, I think, have knocked out Garganacl. Is that right? Sorry, I'm going back a turn. Just to see the damage. Yeah, if Mudsdale had won the speed tie on the next turn, Garganacl would have gone down. But that's not what happened, so... Opportunity to break through there. If you get it down to just Mudsdale, Clefable, and Blissey, I imagine, actually, the Flat Sands are in a good position to win that. So, I'm not... Okay, the Clefable shows Ice... Or, the Blissey shows Ice Beam. That's pretty hard to deal with still, although it didn't one-shot Clefable. I don't know. I feel like there could be something I'm not accounting for, but let's see what this Body Press does. Oh, less than half. Okay. So the thing that I was hesitating to say is if Mudsdale won the speed tie on turn 6, then I think maybe the Flat Sands win. because Mudsdale can beat Blissey from there. But we see the unboosted body press do less than half and then activate the Keyberry. It is a different game state if you've removed Garganacl earlier and Clefable is still on the board, but actually I think this Blissey might be winning either way. And Blissey playing it patiently, going for the soft boiled, and now it doesn't take all that much. I'm surprised it's going for a Calm Mind actually. Kind of leaving the door open to being crit there. If it's me, I might start clicking Ice Beam immediately, but maybe they know a calc that they're going for that I certainly don't know. And yeah, without a crit, the Mudsdale is just not doing enough. It can win here with a crit. Oh, well, no, it can't because it's slower than Blissey. Yeah, in the end, I don't think the game was determined by that speed tie because I'm not confident that Mudsdale is beating Blissey anyway. If Clefable lasts longer relative to Garganacl, maybe there's a way, but watching this play out, it does kind of feel like the position favored the Farmboys anyway. Ice Beam at +6 still doesn't one-shot Mudsdale. Oh, of course. They want to maximize the Ice Beam damage because every one that Mudsdale survives gives it a stamina boost, which boosts his body press. That was a little silly of me to overlook. That's why they went up to +6 before they started attacking. And Mudsdale still does take an Ice Beam after that, but not enough to KO Blissey, even with the boosted body press. And Blissey, being faster, is able to finish the job. Yeah, I don't know the counterfactual where Mudsdale wins that speed tie. It definitely was a tricky endgame and playable for both players, but the Blissey coming through in the end means that the Varsity Farmboys, the very first lower seed in this playoff bracket to win a set, will be advancing to the final. That matchup that I predicted last week between the Dragapults and the Farmboys, I was mistaken about the structure of the bracket, but it is happening after all, just a week later than I said. And that is it for the PDL semifinals. There have been a lot of fireworks this season, and the semifinals kept that going. Certainly did not disappoint. I'm glad that I'm not the only one in the playoff field struggling to break through this Farmboys team. And next week, the final, Dallas Dragapults, Varsity Farmboys. All comes down to those two. One of them will win it all.